welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my man Myron.
Gobble, gobble! Happy Thanksgiving, folks. Welcome to our Thanksgiving show.
Yeah, man, it's we're heading up. It's that time of the year, man. It's Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, this episode will drop on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy. But we're obviously recording here on Wednesday. And, of course, Myron, as usual, if you were a YouTube subscriber or a Patreon member, both, you would get the show early. It will release on Wednesday as soon as we're done recording. That's on our YouTube channel. The handle's at Tapped Out Pod, or on Patreon, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Like I said, we dropped that show on Wednesdays for those people. On YouTube, man, make sure you're liking the page, subscribing to the page, turning your notifications on, all that great stuff. So that way, even when they release, you'll get notifications, you'll know. But, man, look, I'm thinking while we're there, potentially, some ideas of recording some video. And, look, it's going to be raw footage, recording it on our phones, shit that we do.
I'm bringing my iPad.
Well, I mean, so recording on your phone is probably, be blunt with you, the quality in your iPhone camera is probably better than your iPad camera these days. But recording it and uploading some stuff behind the paywall over on Patreon and on YouTube, that'll be fun.
Yes.
So Wrestlecade, and we might talk a little more about Wrestlecade because that's where we're going to be heading out.
So excited.
This Friday morning. We'll hit the road and head on up to Wrestlecade and Winston-Salem and see some good friends of ours that usually we only catch up a couple times a year.
Yep.
Rafe this year, I've seen a couple times, so that's kind of been a change of pace. But looking forward to seeing all those guys again, especially Dave. Dave lives here. We don't see Dave enough. That's always crazy.
I talk to Dave all the time. Dave is, when I think about things I'm thankful for, Dave Wills always comes up on my list.
Yep.
So.
But look, Wrestlecade's not the only big thing that's happening this weekend, dude. Let's dive right into it. War Games, Survivor Series, that's this weekend. On one hand, I feel like there's a part of me that feels like I should be more excited than I am. But I asked you off the air, and I'm like, to be fair, and let us know what you think at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Is this a one-match card, essentially? Because this happens more. People don't like to admit this, by the way. Even on AEW cards, independent shows, lots of times cards are essentially built around one. Most of the time it's two. And so I would make the case for this one, by the way, that it's two. 1, 2 match, 3 match cards max, generally. The rest of it's usually filler.
This is a tough one. Nick. It's a pay-per-view. Survivor Series. The Survivor Series match basically is War Games.
Yeah.
It is. It's the whole thing is themed around the War Games matches. Is that a bad thing in this? No, these matches are going to take a long time. These aren't going to be short matches. So why not build the whole pay-per-view around these? The men's match looks to be the hot.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to let you finish. But are they? WWE's been pretty good about 3 hours and they're wrapped. We're going to address Full Gear a little bit and down the road here on this episode. But that's something that I think AEW could learn from a little bit, is about less matches. Because let me ask you this. If they took some of the matches they put on their pay-per-view cards, put them on their shows, would it help? And then that way they shorten up I get the concept is you got to pay $59 or $49, whatever it is, for a pay-per-view, so they feel like they got to justify that. How about you just put the best matches on the pay-per-view, and that's all that matters. Now, back to War Games, you're paying $4.99 if you have the ad version of Peacock, $9.99 or whatever. I don't even know. I think it's like $4 or $5.99 at this point.
I have to agree. You get, and this is a double-edged sword. It's double-edged because the WB has all the swords in this deal, because they put these great matches on television that get them these great ratings on television, that get them better ad revenue on television. So this works out really good. I love these 3-hour pay-per-views, these nice, short, concise. To me, 3 hours is the perfect time. Little long for Raw, but if it's a pay-per-view or an indie show, 2.5 to 3 hours for an indie show is perfect for me. 3 hours for a pay-per-view, perfect for me. Now, that's an indie show with an intermission, don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're starting to push the 3 hours is kind of, to me, is the limit, period.
Uh,
Like saying a guy that we put a show on that went like 4 hours. But yes, I'm saying
we got out of hand, and we're
yeah.
marks.
But your typical show, like 3 hours to me is like, look, here's I always say this. We bitch and complain about 3 hours of Raw, but then like a 5 hour pay-per-view is okay. Like it's just not.
Not anymore.
It's just too much.
I'm old.
And that's why I like the shorter ones, but yeah.
I'm old. I have to pee a lot more than I used to. My prostate gets swollen up.
Well, look, the great thing about especially the way we watch them half the time, pause and walk away, or you know, come back or whatever. I mean, or watch it if you're watching it later, you can just jump around and pause and go to the bathroom, whatever.
Or my iPad. A lot of times I watch them. I got one of those tablet hangers that holds the tablet right above my head in bed, and I watch it whenever I want to. I don't watch it live. I watch it maybe the next day. It's a convenience thing. I love a good 3 hour pay-per-view. I love to get it out of the way, and a good match on TV helps build up my excitement. So give me that good short pay-per-view. Get me all worked up with a good TV match. This is a really good card for a show. Does it have the best matches on there? Maybe not. Maybe not the strongest card outside. I love the Rhea Ripley match. That's going to look real good. Zoe Starks and her are going to beat the hell out of each other.
Look, I get it, but we're like, it's a showcase match for Rhea Ripley, but it's also to put Stark out there with, hey, she looked good in a loss.
Yes.
She had a great outing. She had a good showing. Yeah. So that'll be great. Look, we're going to get to the War Games matches kind of in reverse order. But Miz versus Gunther, I think they've done a really good job building this.
Yes.
I don't think either one of us, like if we were betting on this, I don't think we would actually put our money on Miz.
No.
I mean, they wouldn't dare, but then there's a part of me that's like, would they though?
Well, it's got to go with your erasure theory. Nick McDaniel and his great erase all the names theory that if the WB doesn't like you anymore, they're taking you out of the record book.
Listen, Gunther has served his purpose with his title reign. He has wiped out everybody. He is now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Honky Tonk Man's gone, so that history's erased. So now a good piece of history that needs to be erased as far as look, and I'm not saying this is what they're thinking, but could be what they're thinking. On Raw, Michael Cole put it out into the ether. If Miz wins, he will be tied for the most Intercontinental Championship, reigns. And by the way, they didn't even mention who it was, so I'm like, okay, it's somebody who ain't there anymore. And now, funny part was, I kind of did. It took me like 30 seconds. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Chris Jericho. Yeah. So are they? Would they? Like, because let's look at it from this aspect. This would be a hell of a reward for Miz being a company guy for years.
Oh yeah,
it would be. It would also help them if, and I'm not saying they are, let's get Chris Jericho's name off of record books, because we don't, because he's gone over and clearly he's going to finish his career with AEW. So we'll just wipe him off the books with The Miz. I mean, think about that. Would you wrap your
You got to realize the WB record books really only have one listing. The person who holds the current record now. Roman Reigns. Is going to be Bruno Sammartino, maybe Roman Reigns when they rewrite it. And then it's going to be Gunther. And is it going to be, after that, is it going to be The Miz instead of Chris Jericho? It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this. I love Gunther, though. He is the heel. He is such a damn good heel, Nick. He's got an accent. Mm-hmm. He looks like a heel from when we were kids. And the things he's doing with Imperium right now. He's going to spin that one tall guy off into a baby face that's going to make them a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Well,
look, and that's arguably, that was kind of where I was going down the road, is maybe that's the guy who defeats him. You make a guy from within the faction to, and you can launch a new. Miz doesn't. That's my take. If the Miz does it, in my opinion, it's only to essentially start erasing Jericho from the Intercontinental picture for as far as the reigns. Otherwise, Miz doesn't need it. Like, Miz doesn't need to be a champion again. So if you're going to make anybody, make the other guy. You know what I'm saying? Make him, period. You know, so that'd be my take. So I don't think they go that route, but we'll see. The women's War Games, look, Damage Control, Flair, Lynch, Bianca, and Shotzi. I know everybody's excited about, look, Damage Control. Obviously, you have the three of the best female talents on the planet with Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. My question is, though, is this the vehicle that they use to launch Shotzi to become one of the top players?
Yes. They did Shotzi did such a good job with the Halloween Havoc stuff. Okay. Such a good job. She is right there on the edge. Think about this woman we saw in Landmark Arena a few years back, Nick. Okay. She is so talented. She's got the personality. She's ready to go. I think she's going to be this is her launch vehicle. I think there's going to be a turn on Bayley. Oh, Bayley. I love you so much. But there's going to be a turn on Bayley. There's going to be a faction started that's not Damage Control. I don't know what they're going to do with Dakota Kai, poor girl and her leg. But there's only 4 people on each team, Nick. We have to have more people.
We have to have more women. I think that's what we're used to.
Yes, we do. We have to have more. Where is Jade Cargill? Come on, Nick, we have to have more women.
Did you hear Meltzer's take on her?
What's that?
He is, and look, we all know what I think of that, right? What I think of the opinion. But it was a take that I was kind of like, it caught me off guard and went, it could be true.
What's that?
He said, did they sign her, get her in a ring in the Performance Center, see her wrestle and go, she needs a lot more time.
You know what I read Rudy Gonzalez's take on that. And he said that's what the Performance Center is for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's for. I did learn something very important on Monday night. I was able to replicate Dave Meltzer and his way he watches wrestling. I got really high. Me and the kids smoked some marijuana, and I attempted to watch Raw. And yes, I understand how Dave Meltzer has his opinions on professional wrestling. Most of the time he's wrong. A lot of times Dave lets his friendships and everything, and that's something that we have talked about extensively today.
Mm-hmm.
About
we're gonna get back there. We're gonna touch
personal
that later.
Opinions on things.
Yep.
But Jade Cargill, let's just say, left his little boys club and went over here to WWE, where nobody plays and holds hands like they do.
Now, to defend Dave a little bit, he never really racked up and said she was putting out 5-star matches even over there.
Exactly. She doesn't have to. Okay? Just whatever, Dave. Smoke some more of that. Smoke some more of that heavy tobacco and staple some more people's titties or whatever y'all do over there.
So now we'll get to the main match because it's going to segue into the next topic as well. The men's match, we're getting, the new and improved Judgment Day, versus the babyface team. I will tell you this. I understand the connection of all of them. The biggest issue I have at times with War Games is sometimes when it feels like they've just slapped a team together. Cody, Sammy, Seth, it just kind of feels like a hodgepodge of guys. Like it's not like that's what I always loved about the old War Games. It was, like Dusty and his guys that have been together for a while versus the Horsemen, generally. But whatever. But I will say this, at least I can see the connected pieces of the puzzle. Like, okay, this guy was feuding with him. He was feuding with him, the multitude of guys. So I do enjoy the fact that at least there's a feud there that justifies all of these being involved.
There's tension.
There's tensions there to be involved. Yeah.
Storyline building.
There's a storyline reason why all of the participants are involved. That's a plus. However, the big obviously was, look, Cody's team, he needed a 5th member. They teased it. Hey, you're going to find out on Monday. They look, what is WWE? What are they doing now that is showing back to things they did in their peak? What some people argue by the peak. By the way, I would argue their peaks now, not the Attitude Era at this point when it comes to financially, especially. But
yeah, you may not have as many people watching, but there's a whole hell of a lot more money flowing through the whole.
But they might be. That's the problem when you start adding TikTok and YouTubes and yeah. So but anyway, so what they did was they took that storyline throughout the entire Raw. A segment here, a segment there. Hey, I know somebody. Hey, my guy's out. Hey, I talked to my guy.
It started with a promo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was just kind of an all of a, they did it. By the way, raising my hand, Adam Pearce is like a forceful GM, like authoritative guy. Really good. Not the pushover, not the punk that he was when he. Yeah, so I do like that. By the way, I think that was a forced move because Nick Aldis is playing that role as well. So it's really good to see the GMs of both brands being in control, like not like we're just going to be manhandled and pushed around. And so that's one that I love. The angles throughout the little setups, the backstages, all that stuff throughout the show where they're teasing who's it going to be. By the way, they told you that you were going to find out who it was. This is very key and something that I actually really enjoyed, and we talked about this off air. I loved what they did in the fact of they announced Randy Orton is the member. Like, he is the 5th member. But Randy Orton was not there. You're going to have to wait to Survivor Series to actually see Randy's return. They didn't give it to you. Like, they didn't just go. Because, look, I mean, honestly, I don't want to knock anybody in this. I was going to knock the other side and go, like, they would have done it. They would have just shot their wad and he'd have been, But no, he's literally going to, like, now you got to watch it.
I've got an announcement.
But it would it have been, I have an announcement, Randy Orton's the 5th member, and he walks out. No, WWE says, it's Randy Orton, crowd goes crazy, and then it's like, by the way, if you want to see him, watch Survivor Series to see him. That's kind of the crazy part.
You didn't like the whole Cody Rhodes teases Randy Orton bit.
Okay, I just said it wasn't the best promo. That's all I said. Like I have a legacy with him. I understand the concept of what was trying to be done. I like Cody. I like his promos. I don't love his promos. Big difference. That's all. There's the gap from like and love are two different things. That's all. I just didn't love it. I didn't think it was like this great promo, but it served its purpose. Like it got us to, hey, Randy Orton's the 5th man, their 5th member. So I do, because look, we all know I love Randy Orton, and I'm not in the minority here. I completely have said since Barry Windham, Randy Orton might be the most naturally gifted wrestler we've ever seen. He just gets in there and makes it look easy.
Yeah. Agreed.
By the way, we made a pitch for, this was a couple years ago, that I said, if anybody breaks Flair's record, he's the guy I think it should be. I don't think it's John Cena. I think it's a Randy Orton. Now, there's some things put in the now with him being injured and all that kind of stuff, maybe, but I would still love it to be potentially for it to be him. We're all excited about it, but I put up a screenshot of Jay. Jay didn't look happy.
No, Jay's not happy.
He looked concerned. Maybe that's a better word. It wasn't he didn't look happy. He looked concerned. How about long-term storytelling? Because people, I think, have forgotten that the Usos are the ones who put out Randy Orton 18 months ago. 18 months of his career was gone because of the Usos.
Yep.
Is he going to forgive and forget and just kind of stroll back up in there?
Not the Viper.
Yeah.
No. Vipers don't forget stuff. And on top of all this, Jay's got all this problem with Drew McIntyre. So Jay's in this spot. And Drew McIntyre's doing, I never thought I could stand Drew McIntyre. And all of a sudden, Drew McIntyre's doing some of the best work of his career right now.
You want to hear a cool twist?
What's that?
Somebody pitched something that just blew me away. What if, I've added some layers to this. So there's the parts, if you've done your research, you'll know who said the original thing that I've booked out further. Orton RKO's Jey Uso. He's not forgiving and forget. They'll win. Let's say they win, but he's not forgiving. He's not going to let it go. And then eventually, the bloodline comes to Jay and says, see, they're not your family. They're never going to trust you. They're never going to believe in you. Come back home. Jay eventually goes back home, full circle, goes back to the bloodline. Because here's what I think. This is the one that I did. Full disclosure, I took this from, I believe it was Bully Ray. At WrestleMania, if Roman Reigns is dropping the title to Cody, I want the full bloodline with Roman. I want them all back together. I want the massive presentation, walking down to the ring together, and he is dethroned at full force bloodline. Because if they chip away and they break away at the bloodline and he's got nothing left, Cody beats Roman Reigns. Like, he doesn't overcome I have finally defeated Roman Reigns and the bloodline. Which would you rather see? Would you rather see, or did we just stay Jay's a babyface and Jay helps, fight off them and he beats them one-on-one? I just think from presentation point, that was what I would love to see.
I have to disagree. I'd like to see the bloodline fracture slowly, and Cody is the man who saves everything and makes things right, and Roman is left alone, and then Paul leaves. And I don't know where Paul goes, but it winds up just being Roman and Cody as the last two. But then again, you know me, I'm just a massive fanboy. That happens.
It does. But look, everybody has their preferences. Look, but if I'm a betting man, obviously I probably ride with it's going to end up being all of the pieces crumble around Roman, and it ends up Roman standing alone, and that's why he loses. But look, if you enjoy betting like I do, by the way, you got lots of games this week on Turkey Day. You got Turkey Day, Black Friday, we've got Sunday, all of that. Especially if you're an NFL person, Prize Picks is where you want to play. Check out the app. Check them out online. It's always fun. And by the way, get your payouts like that when you win. You're not waiting full seasons for like fantasy football. So jump right in. This week is a great week. Right over our friends at Prize Picks.
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words, Prize Picks. It's so easy.
Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the number. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Big football week. Make sure you're checking out our friends over at Prize Picks, whether you do it via the app or the website. Get your bets in, man. Hey, before we go too much further, Myron, I also want to throw in while we're there, talk about our sponsors, jmartinandcompany.com, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning, all that great stuff. Look, we always tell you from week in, week out, if you're going to support the show, best way to do that is support the sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
Again, J. Martin and Company. Check them out on their website, Facebook, everywhere and anywhere for all your pressure washing and window, roof, gutter cleaning needs. Not only do they do residential, but they do commercial as well. So absolutely make sure you check out our friends at jmartinandcompany.com. .com. But listen, man, we got a big pay-per-view coming up this weekend. Had one last week as well. AEW had their big show, Full Gear. Lots of stuff, went down. Let's go through our hits and misses on it. Let's start with the most polarizing match, I think, on the whole entire card.
Death matches. As Jim Cornette said, they stapled his titties. Nick, tell me what happened in your opinion.
Look, I guess I'm trying to figure out why it was so polarizing. It was a Texas death match, so it wasn't like death match like light tubes and cinder blocks and all that, necessarily. So I guess the biggest part, there were a couple things, the stapling. Okay, that's kind of a new thing, and that didn't lose me.
So it was Terry Funkish, is what you're telling me.
It had some of that. I think the part that lost a lot of people, and by the way, let us know your thoughts, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. This is kind of the one that I was torn on. The drinking of the blood, that's I get it. Like none of the other stuff really. None of it really bothered me. I was okay with it in the grand. They had built to this monster feud. They were going to blow it off with this death match, so I get it, and I totally understand. That part doesn't bother me. But the people that were talking about the drinking of the blood, I think a lot of it went down the road of it wasn't necessarily. It's just the health concerns of doing something like that. I think maybe what crossed the line. Now, are people being soft? Maybe. I mean, maybe. I'm not discrediting any opinion here on it. It was a little much for me. The match, which is crazy. Here's the fucked up part for me. The match itself didn't really do anything that like I was like, oh, I can't believe they did this. Or I was okay with pretty much most of the match.
It wasn't like Vader.
Just that one thing,
out, right?
No. I literally just like, okay, the blood thing. Did it just gross people out? Maybe more than anything.
Maybe so. Maybe people weren't used. I mean, maybe your general wrestling audience wasn't used to that stuff anymore. I mean, the death match is a very niche product in America. Remember in Japan where Cactus Jack and Vader did that stuff? Remember when Terry Funk used to do that stuff? When we were kids, we'd see the pictures in the wrestling magazines.
Yeah.
It was different.
Yeah.
But it was something we'd seen before.
Yeah.
But
I enjoyed the match. That's the fucked up part. I enjoyed the match. If I took out that one little part that was kind of like, okay, it didn't do it to the point that made me not enjoy the rest of the match, but I did understand why people were kind of going like, okay, that crossed the line just from a health standpoint or whatever. I understood what they were saying. But anyway, but that literally, I would love to know people's opinions on that. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. I did enjoy the fact they do it. Look, Edge and Christian, the story that they're pulling with them, and when they put them in the 6-man, match, I was kind of like, okay, we'll get there. The fact that they really didn't even have physicality with each other, just kind of like we wanted it more. We thought we were going to get it and we didn't get it, and now you want it even more. So great job from that aspect. And the crazy thing is, it was somebody was like, oh, see, Tony Khan can book. And I'm not knocking Tony Khan in this situation. My argument was I kind of got a feeling that there was a lot of Sting and Adam Copeland and Christian like involved in like planning that all out.
Ric Flair.
We're going to get to the Flair thing. There's some
now they're going to
Flair
have
things
to.
that I'm
Are
not
they
a
going to
fan.
have to put it in a cage when they do this so nobody can interfere? Are they going to have to?
Probably.
So now you got something even better for when they get it put together. That sounds to me like even better than them not.
Yeah.
Sorry, even better than them mixing it up in a 6-way tag match. Hold it out, make you want it even more. Save it for a bigger thing.
Kind of the same thing could be said. One of the other hits that I have for the show, MJF is still your champion. Look, we've heard the rumors that he's actually already re-signed. He's not going to be a free agent at all. Which, why wouldn't he? We've talked about that. I mean, literally, we said it like I think last week that we hope Tony Khan just backs the Brinks truck up for MJF and just pays him, and this doesn't even become I didn't even want it to become like a where's he going? We just pay the guy, keep him. He's a focal point of your company. He's probably the star of your future for a very, very long time. So just pay him. Just get it over with.
Do they still do that franchise player thing in baseball?
Football.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Professional sports just don't interest me. Besides professional wrestling, so he should be able to get the franchise designation.
If wrestling did it, he would be the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now doesn't mean everything went great at Full Gear. I actually thought the pay-per-view itself in general was really good. There was lots of things I liked about it. But if you're trying to point out the things that weren't so great, the referees still continue to look like idiots. And at this point, like, it's just not going to get any better. So there's a part of me that watched it and just said to myself, and if you disagree, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, they're not going to make the efforts to fix any of this. If you're going to continue to watch AEW, Nick, you just got to let this go because it's not getting any better. Ric Flair, we're talking about the 6-man, literally gets into a physical confrontation with Christian. They're going at it with the referee like hanging out, looking at them they're on the floor. He's looking right at them, telling them not to touch each other, stay away from each other. They just start fighting. In my opinion, that's a disqualification. This match is over. And they gave us hey, he's using a lot of discretion. There shouldn't be discretion for outside interference. If Christian kicks Ric Flair and prevents him from getting involved, the referee can use his discretion because he didn't do anything. When they're hitting each other, they're going at it. I'm like, dude, that's not. He is physically involved in the match at this point.
He's interfering.
Either put Ric Flair up on the apron and now he's in the match, or it's a disqualification. I'd love to tell you that's the most egregious thing that happened on the pay-per-view, but it's not. Aubrey Edwards was hung out to dry majorly in the Toni Storm match. She uses that plate. She puts it in her butt, on her trunks is I think what they were going for. But like then the thing essentially it was literally just hanging out. She does she does the big rump to the face. When she goes for the pin, the plate is completely visible. The
plate was visible all through that match.
By the way, here's what, when I say Aubrey Edwards was hung out to dry, Myron, it was her fault. This is on her.
Well, this is Aubrey Edwards. This is how she officiates.
The worst part is she's not up where the person being pinned. She's not. If she was at her shoulders, looking at her shoulders, she would not have said plate. But she got in my opinion, the wrong position. And if I'm wrong, I will completely be corrected. If there's a referee out there that tells me that I'm wrong, that she should have been up at the top looking at her shoulders. Toni Storm wasn't necessarily completely in the wrong in the sense that it was away from her shoulders. But Aubrey Edwards has to turn around and look away while she's counting because the plate's right there in front of her.
This is one of those things I'm going to have to consult Grandpedia again. I'm going to have to stand next to my reference material, Grandpa Booker T, Daryl Hall, one of the greatest referees ever to work in professional wrestling, and say, is this as bad as I think it is, Grandpa? And he's going to say yes. And I say, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. No, that's a Judge song, isn't it? Grandpa. But I'm gonna say, Grandpa, am I wrong to think? You can keep singing while I do this. In the
I am. I figured it was a background noise. Yeah.
Okay. So as I say, Grandpa, I'm gonna say, Grandpa, why is this done like this? Why is this wrong? And this is the same man. I said, Grandpa, why does Aubrey Edwards try to draw this attention to herself? Should a referee try to draw the attention to herself? And he agreed that referees shouldn't draw attention to themselves. Referees shouldn't be. I don't get her. And one thing, I don't get how all these incel trolls hypersexualize her either. I don't get that. She's painfully thin. Sorry, Larry. I couldn't help myself. That's an inside joke, folks. Don't get mad at me. But I just, why? Why do you do that? Why does someone who would not be a good indie ref get to be on TV and make these calls on pay-per-views? And
I think she's a great indie ref.
WWE has 2 female referees on the main program every week who are terrific, who never make these kinds of errors. Even their male referees on AEW. And I'm not saying male or female referees are different, but the male referees on AEW.
The male referee almost got Moxley killed.
Yeah. Or their 10 count lasted 90 seconds the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Look, they just got to clean it up. I don't want to beat this horse to death.
Where's Earl Hebner? Doesn't Earl Hebner work there?
No.
Hire Grandpa. Hashtag.
So we discussed this a little bit earlier. Will Ospreay, right? Me and you a little bit off air. The major announcement, the major signing that everybody in the internet, everybody in the world respected that they signed was Will Ospreay. My negative was he can't be there till February. but he pre-signed officially is kind of what they're calling it. Let's be blunt. He was brought in on this pay-per-view, by the way, because we're going to have a whole section about Will Ospreay in a minute, about what I love about the signing. The announcement was used to boost all-in sales. The pre-registration, pre-sales, all that stuff. Basically saying, look, he ain't going to be here in February, but we don't want you to wait. We want you to let you know. Go ahead and start buying your tickets because he's going to be on the show. That's essentially what I felt like it was. It wasn't as big a deal. It felt like it was a commercial for All In. And speaking of things that were a big deal, Myron, at one point that clearly are not, Jay White was brought in, the gold, the Bullet Club gold. We were essentially thought he's a stepping stone for MJF. By the way, deservedly so. That's the messed up part. But everybody that's brought in that you think is a big deal may turn out to not be. And I think because Jay White wasn't beat by MJF. Jay White was beat by a injured, gimpy MJF with the knee injury. So he wasn't even beat by MJF at his best. He was beat by him almost damn near to the point they thought he couldn't wrestle. Think about that.
Guys, this is a lot like me in fishing. I used to spend a lot of money on fishing tackle. I'd go to the Bass Pro Shops and spend all this money on fishing tackle. But every time I go fishing, I'd use the same damn worm I'd had for a long time. I'd buy new tackle. I'd buy new lures. And Tony Khan and me would go to Bass Pro Shops and buy all these fancy new fishing lures. But we'd fish with MJF every time. Bring in all these new people and do all these wonderful things and tell us how great it's going to be. But you stick with the same things. And it's going to be great. You bring in Will Ospreay, but what are you going to do with him? Are you going to feed him to MJF? Are you going to do this Jay White thing? Are you going to tell us how great Jay White is, and then you're going to put MJF on the card twice? Are you going to have how did Samoa Joe? I didn't think Samoa Joe was MJF's tag team partner.
He's not. He stepped in to be his partner because he wants him. Yeah. Enemies, frenemies, all that good stuff, right? He's enemies, so he wants him at his best. So it was just a mess. So
who the hell is booking this shit?
You know. By the way, for the record, I do want to be clear here for the booking they used to take shots at the booking for the opinion of one. You're still getting that, just so you know. But you're getting it in their promotion. And I'm not knocking it, by the way. It's his money and it's his company. He can do whatever the hell he wants to with it. I'm okay with that. But it also needs to be accepted, the fact that that's who this is all booked for. He's a nicer, younger version of Vince. If that's what most people will tell you. In the sense of he's booking it all the way he wants to. It's his promotion. It's his, and he's booking it the way he wants to. And by the way, God bless him.
If we had one show and we did exactly that. We booked what we wanted to for ourselves.
And even then we didn't. We had to take feedback from other people. We didn't book it. We didn't pick all the winners and the losers. So that's not even true. So wrap that up in your, like I said, we still had to take people's considerations in. Listen, let's keep it rolling, man, because I do want to talk a little bit about the Will Ospreay signing, because everybody's going to think that I'm like shitting all over it because of what I said about the ticket sale device. I'm thrilled. There's things I love about it, and there's things I don't like about it. First, I think he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. I do. So them signing him and getting him major, we knew WWE wanted him, and that was okay, right? There wasn't anything like, he was a highly sought after talent. The problem is, how's that really got worked out for them signing the biggest, the best wrestlers in the world? Tony Khan tells us on a regular basis he has the best roster on the planet. He's got the Kenny Omegas. Now he has Will Ospreay. He's got Bryan Danielson. He had Jay White. He literally was rattling off all of the best wrestlers on the planet. Dude, Claudio's on there. Samoa Joe's on there. Like, all these guys. And by the way, I'm not saying he's wrong. They are. But we'd like to point out that you keep continuing to sign the best wrestlers on the planet, and ratings aren't everything, and I'll be the first to tell you that. But your ratings are still sitting. Here's a value question for you. You're still drawing what you were drawing when your card was loaded with indie darlings? Is it a better, has that worked by signing all these the greatest wrestlers on the planet, and you're still sitting at pretty much the same place you were with the day you started?
I mean, look at LA Knight, Nick. They got him from the NWA, basically. Okay? They gave him The Rock and Stone Cold's moves and a vest. And he's drawing more money than everybody on that AEW roster. He's selling more merch than anybody on that AEW roster. Okay? He's more over than anybody on that AEW roster. He's on a program that's probably drawing twice as many views as anybody on that AEW roster. And he's not from Japan. Okay? He's not the greatest wrestler in the world. They plugged him into a system and they made him somebody that's a superhero, a superstar. Okay? They took a guy who could talk much better than a 5-star match guy, and they made a superstar out of him.
I have a hot take about LA Knight that a lot of people, I need to do it behind the paywall because it won't be popular. But I'll tease it a little bit in a second.
That's why it doesn't matter. All this Japanese 5-star stuff, okay? I don't care if WB signs Will Ospreay. He may be a great wrestler, and I might want to watch his matches, but I'd rather see LA Knight. I'd rather see Otis do the caterpillar, okay? I'd rather see, shush, please. Seriously. I like these guys they make, and they come up through NXT, and they build these characters I can bond with emotionally, so that when they come up on the main program, I already identify with these people.
Well, here's the thing: we talked about
you bring in
the base at AEW knows who he is. Yes. The mass audience does not. So we talked about that a little bit off air. I mean, look, you're going to get we talked about this too. You're going to get all these dream matches with him. You're going to get Ospreay and Omega and Danielson and Jericho, and all these are going to be on AEW TV and all that. You're going to get all of those, but the problem is if there's no story, it doesn't matter the next week.
Oh, what? List that name again that you just listed. Roll out that name.
Which one? The list?
Danielson, Jericho,
Omega.
They were built somewhere else.
No, Omega was not.
But MJF, they built MJF, and he's owned their whole product. You met MJF. Mm-hmm. You met MJF over at somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was MJF there when you met him. MJF was a character. MJF, they built him through that program. They built that character. People identify with that character. Now he's on top of their program. They have to use him for everything. Okay? They need to build people. They don't need to be bringing people in. They don't need to be bashing John Cena. They need to be building John Cena's. Okay? They can't keep bringing in these people from Japan. They need to be developing talents like they did in Japan.
Okay, I'm going to push back on that a little bit because if WWE had brought him in, they were going to have to build him too.
Yes,
but that's what I'm saying. The bringing guys in, technically, if you want that argument, technically, if you didn't go through the NXT Performance Center plan, you were brought in from somewhere. LA Knight, the argument could be made, well, they brought him in from NWA. So that bringing guys in is a necessity. I do think that. So that part I'll push back a little bit on. But as far as yes, they're still going to need to build him into who the world knows he is. When I mean by the world, the non-diehard internet wrestling community needs to learn who he is.
Well, what's his gimmick?
Well, you're going to find out. That's the point. We got to find out what it's going to be. And it didn't have to, because the problem is, the reason I'm pushing back is in Japan, you don't really need one.
You get a
being the best wrestler on the planet is enough of a gimmick, in Japan, that it'll make you a top guy. Now we got to figure out over here what's that going to be, if that makes sense. Look, MJF has one. I'm better than you, and you know it. That kind. I mean, he's got one. I mean, so it's not like they're beyond that they can't do it. I just think they've got to take the time to do it. The biggest problem is, do not line me up 15 dream matches against guys, Joe, Claudio, Jared, on and on and on. If there's no story to them, it's not going to matter. We're going to forget about it in a couple of weeks. So just be really good about that. So
So it's just set. The whole Will Ospreay, booking is set without a story. You're just ready to go and see these dream matches.
Well, no, that's what we're saying. Don't do that. We don't know what it is. I mean, I'm hoping there's a great story. I mean, it could be he's coming in and he's right out of the gate. There's going to be a feud for Bill. Look, I think there's a built-in thing with him and Omega because of their history. Okay, well, let's see if that's where they go. Or
how do you introduce it? How do you introduce it to your everyday fan? How do you introduce it for somebody who turns off WWE? What's that number you say? People that watch both programs. Okay.
That's debatable. It's somewhere, if we had to guess, I'm guessing there's somewhere between 250,000 to 400,000 people that only watch AEW.
Okay.
Everybody else is watching both.
How do you take somebody who turns off WWE and turns on this to learn who this Will Ospreay guy is to watch a program? Does it happen?
I think you got to have him involved in somebody with Danielson, Jericho, a name, a face that they recognize, and make him a star using those, by the way. That's the way I think it's got to be done. So anyway, but listen, hey, man, let's keep it rolling here. We want to talk to you about, it is Thanksgiving today. Wink, wink. When this releases, it will be Thanksgiving. And that's, of course, leading into the, Black Friday sales everywhere, whether you're talking streaming services or whatever. Typically every week we take a segment here and we go over the Pro Wrestling Tees, shirt of the week that we're going to do. This week, we wanted to focus on, listen, from November 17th, obviously it's passed, through November 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 days of Black Friday sales for Pro Wrestling Tees. Save up to 50% off. There you can see. There's no coupons needed. It's just straight out of the gate. Whether it's action figures, decals, posters, hats, beanies, all the, everything is for sale. There you can see the discounts that you're going to get on each and every items. Go over to ProWrestlingTees.com. With the sale, go through our list, man, of all of the shirts look, all of the wrestlers, find favorite. Look, and I get it, folks. The easy thing is to go find the New Japan guy, the All Elite Wrestling guy, the Ring of Honor guy. Man, go out and find the indie guy, the guy who who really wants and needs this, that business. Support them while you're, especially if you're getting a deal on it, buy multiples of them. Not just, look, if you feel so inclined, pick up one of ours. We're cool with that as well. But man, we're just saying, look, support the indie guys and get those shirts.
Look, a lot of I'd say probably 2/3 of my clothing comes from there. My tapped out shirts I wear everywhere. I've been getting my tapped out shirts ready for this weekend at Wrestlecade so I can represent the brand. All of my favorite indie darling shirts come from there. All of my funny wrestling shirts and the Pro Wrestling T-shirts are great. Guys, some of the most comfortable garments you'll ever find, super durable. I really don't wear anything else unless it's got just something I have to wear dress up. Trust me, you'll love it. Everything there is wonderful. I might get some hats too while I'm there.
Yeah. We need to. That's going to be my next thing. I was going to start looking at other apparel and items to maybe put up on there down the road. So we'll see. But look, let's talk about. It's all about branding, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And look, one of the craziest stories, and it's a hot take for some people. I don't understand it. The Bellas, are at war with WWE at this point about the branding, and they won't let them have the Bella name, so they had to go back to the Garcia name. I get it; they're angry about it, and I understand. By the way, this is the hard part for me to say because there's a part of my brain that goes, I understand, I get it. But the WWE does own it. And you signed that deal. You knew when you signed that deal that this was going to be, did you think we're going to have such a great run? They're going to love us and they're going to be great. And so eventually at the end, they'll just keep, they'll let us keep the name. No, it doesn't work that way.
Like Bryan Danielson kept his name. Like your husband works for another company now. Yeah, let's be real. Okay. You're not Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're not John Cena. It's those people had those names before they got there. Okay?
Listen, Cesaro, Shall we go down the list of guys who don't have their names anymore?
I mean, there's guys on the wall behind me that's probably had 10 different names. Okay. Jake Roberts had his name before he got there. Let's be realistic. It happens in professional wrestling. You get assigned a name, you sign a contract, it's intellectual properties. I mean, we have an attorney just for the show. Okay? Everything on here is trademarked and handled by our attorneys just for a wrestling podcast. The WWE brands everything. Survivor Series, branded. War Games, all that.
Yeah.
Can you really believe that they're going to put people on TV without lining that up?
Listen, look, there does become an athlete, AJ Styles, that type of thing, where you eventually reach a status where they're basically leasing the name while you're there, etc. But here's the hard pill to swallow. Again, guys, I understand. I'm not saying I don't understand. But when they signed them, who were they? Like, they built them. They literally built them as a brand. And I understand, like, hey, we felt like they had kind of run its course with them, and, you know, they had moved on, and they were doing, okay, that happens all the time in wrestling. Like, why are you shocked? I guess that's always where I come back to. Why are we shocked by this? It's all talents. Like I said, it's not a Bella problem.
Why are they always the villains? It's not even a WB problem. It's any business.
Yeah. Now, by the way, they do some shit that I'm like, okay, that's pretty fucked up. I mean, they do. I'm not saying they don't. But in this case, kind of like, if it wasn't for the WWE, would you even know who the Bellas were? And right, what you just said, you knew that when you signed the contract that this day could come. You knew the day could come. They could come look at you in the locker room and go, we got nothing for you. We're letting you go. But hey, what about this? Yeah, we don't like that. Bye. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just, it's not like it's not outside of the realm of possibility that this was going to happen completely. So,
I don't feel sorry for them. I get where they're coming from. They did their time. They made a lot of money doing this. They built wonderful careers. They're on Bar Rescue now. One of them is, I really
Barmageddon. She's on Barmageddon.
I was watching Bar Rescue while I was.
Yeah.
I got a really fancy. Where was I getting? Did I get to watch Bar Rescue while I was getting my hair? Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Who knows? So anyway, but
yeah.
That's history. So now let's move into. I want to discuss some history It's crazy, by the way. I knew this thing was coming out, but last night I was doing some work yesterday, and I went up from the office and I went upstairs, and my wife says she's out of school this week. She's a teacher, so she's not working this week. And she said, I found the documentary for you. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And she was like, it's on Prime Video. And then we looked it up, and boom, she pulls up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew this was coming out. I just couldn't remember the date on it. It's called Bye Bye Barry. Barry Sanders, who, and by the way, I'm going to tie this to wrestling, so don't freak out, folks. Barry Sanders was always like my guy. Like, he was like, you know, when people ask me who's the greatest running back of all time, I'm always like, Barry Sanders. That's my opinion. Take it for what it is. Shit on it, whatever. That's just my opinion. And by the way, I could stand there and make my case like I did last night. I hit pause on this documentary like 3 or 4 times, turning to my wife, pleading a case to a woman who really doesn't care, that like why I think he's the best running back of all time. And then we'd start the thing back up again. And what I found myself at some point realizing was like going, this is what we do in wrestling. Literally this, by the way, highly recommend the documentary. Anybody that saw that post, check it out. It's because it does answer the question, why did he walk away from football in his prime? That was always the mystery. He discusses it personally himself. And I was telling a friend of the show, mutual friend of ours, Billy, messaged me last night, was like, hey, what's that on? And I told him, and we were talking about it, and I was like, dude, it's the most I've heard him talk like ever. Because he just doesn't do that. And when you see the documentary,
he's not a big,
you'll see. Yeah, he goes all into that. So coming back to the wrestling part is, when we have these debates about wrestling, whether it's Mount Rushmore's, whether it's the greatest wrestler of all times, it's blah, 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 anything. It's like we do this exact same thing. In wrestling, I'm a Dusty guy. Dusty's always going to be my favorite wrestler. It doesn't matter who comes along. Nobody's dethroning him. He's going to be my favorite wrestler till the day I die. By the way, most of us are that way. It's who did you connect with at a point in your life that you connected with that no one's ever going to convince you that he's not the greatest wrestler of all time or your favorite. The problem is over history, our phrasing has changed. In the past, we would say, he's my favorite wrestler of all time. Now everybody likes to be correct and right and say, he's the greatest wrestler of all time. Okay, no, he's your favorite wrestler of all time. Because it's a really hard measurable to measure. Look, Myron, and we talked about this off air, and I'm really going to set you up. And we do this with our favorite television shows. We do this with our favorite sports teams. We do this with our favorite, and then back to wrestling, we do it with our favorite wrestlers. We do it with our favorite promotion. We do it with our favorite indie promotion, all the way down. And it's funny, I will look on social media at times, and somebody is promoting that they think they're the best, promotion of all time on their social media. And are you stunned to find out that every comment is telling you how great you are when it's on your social media? It's people who follow you and like you. They're going to tell you the best. And I'm like, dude, it's
people who want to work for you. Okay.
Listen, but we talk about it like you're sitting here going like, oh, here he is. He's up on his pole. No, I'm telling you, we do it too. We have promotions we love. We have bookers we love. We have wrestlers we love. We probably give them a little bit of we call it the friend bump when it comes to how great we think they are because we like them. By the way, it probably works the reverse. If you're a shithead, you're probably not as good we don't think you're as good as you probably are. Agree or disagree?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's people I think are dicks that I don't really think they're as good as they should be. Or think they're probably better than I think they are.
Or Myron, or as good, they're better than you'll give them credit for. What? I'm saying you'll give them credit.
Yes, that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are times where I have comments where I go, it pains me to say that this little prick or whatever, or this asshole's as good as he is. I will say it. I will say it eventually. But yes, there is the friendship bump, and that's kind of what led me to believe because I hear guys talking about like Jim Brown's the greatest of all time, which by the way, I'm not going to shit on that take because that guy was pretty fucking good. Now I always push back on Emmett because my wife is a Cowboys fan.
Jim Brown wasn't one of the greatest.
No, people will argue he is the great. By the way, Barry Sanders' father will tell you Jim Brown is the greatest running back to ever play the game. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, by the way, he will tell you his son is the third best running back to ever play. I will let you go figure that out by watching the documentary. I'm not going to spoil that. You got to actually watch the documentary to figure that part out. So, but great documentary. Check it out. 100%. I'm all for it. But yeah, that's just my take on it. But look, hey, Myra, we talked about it. We're heading to Wrestlecade this weekend. Look, we're going to upload to our YouTube channel some of the videos. We're going to do it to the Patreon as well. Tapped Out Pod at Tapped Out Pod's the handle on YouTube. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. A lot of that stuff will be behind the paywall. It's not going to be out in front because God knows there's probably going to be alcohol involved at that point. But we appreciate all the people who are watching the videos over on the YouTube channel. It seems to be the go-to home for us now, but we got it. Look, we understand there's lots of people out there that are still diehard podcast listeners, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, anywhere and everywhere there is a podcast platform. Yes, folks, I promise you, we're probably there. You'd be hard-pressed to find one where they're not. So make sure you're subscribing anywhere and everywhere. Leave a 5-star rating and review. We greatly appreciate that for sure. But look, it's about that time to pack up and head out to Wrestlecade. If you're listening to this on Thanksgiving, we're leaving first thing in the morning. Check us out. Looking forward to seeing some old people there. Got some questions. We're not going to dive down into these a lot, but rumors are, should we talk about that? You know what? We're not going to talk about it. We're going to we're going to go to the source and ask the question before we speak on it. So that way we know the answer. So I'm not going to spoil this one.
Oh.
Looking forward to maybe
We know a
seeing
lot of
Easy
things
E.
most people don't that we don't talk about.
I try not to talk about things. Anyway, that's a whole other can of worms. You got anything else before we get out of here, man? Because look, we're going to tell everybody happy Thanksgiving and pack up here and head out to Wrestlecade on Friday.
No, don't ever let your children mess around with your podcasting equipment. I think I've lost most of my audio halfway through this episode, so you might want to check that when we're done.
Nah, I mean, you seem like you're good. So,
Okay.
yeah, but that's true. Hopefully we'll double check it and see for you. But listen, make sure if you are doing a podcast and you are worried about it, Libsyn.com, check them out. Promo code is TAPPED. Sign up and get up to 2 months for free. Look, it's who we've been with. I would say 98% of our podcasting time at this point. Libsyn.com, promo code TAPPED. Sign up and get up to 2 months for free. Like I said, best service, get you distributed everywhere, anywhere, makes it super, super easy. And we do want to take a minute, like I said, tell everybody, hey, look, happy Thanksgiving, enjoy your time with your family. Look, we enjoy ours, and then we pack up and we head on up to Wrestlecade and see our family away from our family, every single year. And man, we're looking forward to it, having a blast. Anything else before we wrap up, Myron?
I think every year. Thank you, Tracy and Brian, for putting this on. Thank you for Wrestlecade. Thank you for all the wrestling memories. Thank you for everyone involved. Thank y'all for listening. I really appreciate it. When I sit around with my family, I just thank y'all for wrestling. No, I mean, after I thank for my family. Amen. God bless us, everyone.
That's right, man. Well, if that's everything, brother, what's the old saying? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.